Welcome back to Andersen Acres. One of the biggest surprises for people who don't live on a farm is just how much the work changes with the seasons. And I thought I'd talk about that now because we're transitioning into fall. And so as the seasons change, so does the work. What feels simple in July can be downright miserable come January. And in spring, well, spring is mud season. So if you've ever lost a boot in a puddle, you already know what I'm talking about. It can be not a lot of fun. So today I want to walk you through the year on the farm, the good, the bad, and the muddy, and show you how our chores and routines shift from one season to the next. And as you can see, it's not nice out today. It was nice out a week ago. The seasons change and you have to be prepared for it. Let's start with spring. Even though we're transitioning into fall, I would like to talk about spring for a moment. Spring is the season I detest. You would think you'd love spring. It's warming up and it's, not 40 below anymore. We live where it does get 40 below in the winter. But as much as spring is the season of optimism, it is also the season of mud. Lots of mud. Lots and lots of mud. That's the thing you can't escape. If it's not ankle deep, you're not doing it right. Around here, at least, spring means a few big things. In addition to the mud, it means there's going to be literal mud, literally everywhere. Okay? But it is also the season when the animals start having their babies. You have goat kids, and you have chicks, and you have ducklings, kits from the rabbits. We have our cats having kittens. Spring is the season of things happening. It's when life just explodes everywhere. It's exciting, but it also means more chores. Checking on the moms and bottle feeding if someone needs help, and making sure little ones don't wander into trouble, which I guarantee they're going to. And then it's also fix-it season. Winters are harsh. Even though I actually don't mind winter, winter is still harsh. It's tough on fences and shelters. Posts heave up out of the ground from the frost and need to be reset. Boards warp. Tarps get shredded. So spring mornings often start with tools in hand, repairing whatever the winter tried to destroy. And it's a bit of a process. It can take 2-3 months to repair the damage winter did, especially because mud. There's mud everywhere. It's hard to fix things when it's muddy. So it can be a couple of months before you get things ship-shape again. And then there's the garden. We start our seeds, and usually we have to start them indoors because our winters are long and cold, but we start them inside, and then you have to start prepping beds outside, and you have to try to get ahead of the weeds before they know what hit them. And I promise you, the weeds are always going to win at least one battle. I usually try not to worry about the weeds that much. It's not worth it. It's not worth the worry. But spring is a season of hope, chaos, and mud. It's just plain messy. But it's also a really rewarding season because everything feels new again. So as much as I complain about spring, it's also the season of new life. And there's something special about that, even when I'm complaining about the sheer amount of mud. Because spring is mud. I don't like spring because it's mud. But then eventually spring passes and you transition into summer, which we are just exiting now. And I'll put summer is the easy season, but easy is going to have to be in quotes because nothing about farming is actually easy. But summer does come the closest. The animals, it's easier to feed them because there's a lot more grass and vegetation available. You can pasture a lot of your animals. Our birds free range, so we hardly have to feed them at all in the summer. We throw a bag of food in once in a while, but they don't really need it because they can free range. Arwen free ranges. Shadowfax is let out to graze, so feed costs go down. And with less feeding, there is less chores automatically. Water is easier because it's not frozen solid. and it's plentiful. At least where we are. Water is plentiful here. You never have to worry about not having enough. So it's easy to get, and it's not frozen because it's summer, right? And with the long daylight hours, you can actually get things done without feeling like the sun is racing you to bedtime. But summer does bring its own challenges. Keeping animals cool, especially this year, has been hot. You need shade, you need fans, you need fresh water. These are the name of the game in the summer. We also have to battle flies and mosquitoes, which seem to think that our farm is an all-you-can-eat buffet and that I am the main course. Mosquitoes really like me. Okay, it wasn't frogs, it was quail. Sometimes quail sound like frogs. Don't worry about it. I thought there were frogs over here. Turns out it's just the quail. But summer is also the time of weeds. The garden is at its peak, and so are the weeds. Every time I walk over there, it feels like they've doubled overnight, okay? Even now. But still, summer has the most breathing room. The most time when you can just sit and be calm and relax. Chores go quicker, evenings are longer, and if you squint just right, you can almost pretend it's relaxing. But summer is the season of lazy days and being able to rest, knowing that fall is just around the corner. Because fall is when we have to shift gears, and that's now. It's the season of preparation. The animals may still be grazing, but the pastures are slowing down. So you have to start upping the feed and making sure everyone has enough, at least in part, because that natural forage is starting to dwindle. So you got to be on top of it. And you've got to make sure you have enough stored feed for the winter. Like chicken feed and that you can get all through the winter, no problem. You just go to your feed store and buy it. But things like hay, you can't count on being able to get hay in January. So you have to spend your fall sourcing enough hay to get you to next summer, right? You have to make sure you've got it. And that can be a little nerve-wracking if you're in an area that didn't get a lot of hay that year. You also have to stockpile your bedding, your straw or your wood shavings or anything that'll keep your stalls dry, to be honest. And you have to have a plan for keeping your animals warm. You can't wait till it gets cold. So that's when you're like, okay, I'm going to need 47 bales of straw. You have to source it. You have to store it. You have to keep it dry. And this is also where you have to start waiting for the snow. Okay? This is a holding pattern. As busy as you are grateful every day that the snow has held off. One more day without snow, one more day to get things accomplished. This is also the time of year when you start measuring your winter and how many bales of hay do we have left. You start counting. Because it's fall now, your hay supply is going to start drying up. So you're happy there's no snow on the ground, but you're also anxious because how many bales do you have left? Is that going to get you to May or June or whenever your first harvest is for your hay in your area? For us, it's usually June, end of June. So for us, you have to count up your bales and you have to do the math. And you're doing it every day. Every single day, you're looking at your hay and going, is that going to get me to the end of June? Or at least till the middle of May, because then you can put them on pasture if you have to. So you're like, do I have enough? Fall math sucks, because fall math is all about, is this enough? Is this enough to feed this guy? Is this enough to feed them? You're doing a lot of fall math. Fall math isn't fun. But the garden chores shift too. Instead of planting, you're harvesting, which is irritating because you are constantly out there pulling what's ripe. And then you have to do something with it. That means either you're eating it right now or you have to preserve it. Now, there are lots of ways to preserve things. Maybe you like to freeze things. Maybe you like freeze drying. Maybe you like dehydrating. Maybe you like canning. But you got to do something with all the stuff you just pulled out of your garden because it's going to go bad. So not only do you have to harvest everything, but you're also having to figure out how to store it for the winter. Canning jars fill the shelves. That can be fun and annoying at the same time. The dehydrator hums and the freezer fills up with produce. You do what you can. It's a scramble to save what you can before that first frost hits. Because you're racing the clock now. You're thinking, when is it going to snow? When do we get that first killing frost? They say there's frost coming tonight. Is it going to be a killing frost? How much do I have to pull? Do I have to cover my pumpkins? This is the season of stress. Fall is also fence checking season. So we like to make sure everything is solid before snow and ice buries the weak spots. Because once the weak spots are buried, you're never going to find them, but the animals will. And we like to double check our shelters, patch up holes, get the waterers or the water basins set up so we're not scrambling when that first freeze hits. It's busy, but not in the same way as spring. Fall feels like buttoning up a coat before stepping into a snowstorm. Because you know it's coming. You're literally in a race against time. Because you don't have much of it. And then, winter. Winter. I don't mind winter, but it's a struggle. Winter is the season of struggle. Because this is the season that tests you. Every chore takes twice as long. Water freezes solid. And that means hauling buckets from the house, breaking ice, or using heated troughs if you've got them. We don't bother with the heat because heat doesn't really work very well in 40 below. So most of your trough heaters will freeze solid anyway. So we don't bother. But if it works for you, yay. But at the end of winter, your arms feel like you've carried 1,000,000 buckets of water because you have. Okay, you've basically been weightlifting all winter just by dragging water all around. Feeding changes too in the winter because the animals can't graze. So every mouthful comes from the hay and the feed that you give them. There's nothing left for them to graze unless you live quite far south where you're not getting a bunch of snow that covers everything. And we do. We get a ton. So from at least November through the end of April, we're covered in snow. That means no grazing. That means we have to feed everyone. Everyone needs to be fed something we bought or something we preserved. The animals can't graze because there's nothing. Literally, there's nothing. And animals eat a lot more when they're trying to stay warm, so this compounds the problem. Not only do you have to feed everyone stuff you bought or preserved, but you have to feed everyone extra because now it's cold and you got to keep their furnaces running, right? You have to make sure that that internal furnace of your animals keeps chugging along so nobody freezes. And that's when you really start realizing how fast those haystacks shrink. And you start wondering, did I do the math right? Are we going to be good? Or are we going to come to February and go, oh? Predators are hungrier in the winter as well. So we keep an extra close eye on goats and poultry because they're the first targets. Also the rabbits. Snow makes tracks easier to spot. And sometimes you'd rather not know what's been walking around at night. And that's why we have the livestock guardian dogs. But it's a good idea in the winter to get out there and see if there's any tracks you don't recognize. What's been coming around? What's been in your yard that you don't want there? And maybe figure out how to deter it. And then there's you. Frozen hands and frozen boots and frozen eyeballs. Frozen everything. The air is so cold it hurts to breathe. So it's not the most fun in the world. Are you posing? Are you posing for the world, mister? But I like to joke that in summer you're farming with 2 hands and in winter you're farming with 2 blocks of ice strapped to your wrist. But it's true. It's freaking cold in the winter, especially when you have to be outside. People who don't have to spend 2.5 hours outside fixing a fence in the winter do not realize how cold it feels outside. If all you have ever done is run to your car and then run into your office, you don't realize exactly how cold it is out, especially if it's windy, especially if it's damp. Damp and windy and cold all at the same time. Ew. It's gross. But there are beautiful moments too. And these beautiful moments are the reason I actually really enjoy winter, despite its hardships, despite the struggle. I like those crisp mornings. I like seeing the animals bedded down all cozy. And I like the stillness after a snowstorm. I prefer it to the mud of spring anyway. Winter might be hard, But it's also when you see the real heart of the farm, when everyone is quiet and still and snuggled in warm. You realize just how much that farm means to you. So yes, winter is hard, winter is a struggle, but it's also the beauty at the heart of it all, at least for me. But that is basically a year on the farm. Spring is chaos and mud. Summer is the time of ease. Fall is about preparation, and winter is about the grind. Every season has its rhythm, and together they make up the cycle of life here at Andersen Acres. That's about it for me today. I do have to get out of the wind. It is chilly. But what about you? Which season do you think you'd like the most, and which one sounds like the toughest? Everyone's a little different. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining me on this little journey through the seasons here at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.